All right. Welcome to Let's Talk Passive Investing in Real Estate. I'm Brandon Pedersen, aka the Mobile Home Park Operator. Pedersen Communities. This show aims to provide insight into the passive investing opportunities for those who want to invest in real estate um, in a way to build legacy wealth, not just for retirement, but also for lifestyle. Uh, I'm here to bring you tips, insights, and stories for myself and our guests to give you information enough to be dangerous when making a decision on if investing in real estate is a possibility for your wealth planning. Please like and subscribe. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And don't forget to follow me on social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram at MHP Operator. Today, we have somebody pretty awesome who is able to lend some insight into a different niche in passive investing, something a lot of people probably don't think of. This is Adrian Smude, aka My Wife Buys Mobiles. You may have seen his ad, his sign, his shirt walking around your local Publix in town. This man's ads are everywhere. In fact, if you live in Central Florida, you are sure to have seen something regarding him or his wife buying mobile homes. Although we are not here to talk about his marketing wizardry, rather to discuss how he excels in buying mobile homes on land. He has 22 years of experience in real estate, has done literally almost everything in real estate. He invests in notes, single family houses, mobile home parks, he's wholesaled properties until finally setting down in this little niche we're going to talk about today, just mobile homes on land. More importantly, he's been able to do all this while developing a process and system that allows him to operate virtually and live the lifestyle of his choosing. And he actually does this by living in Colorado, but operating a thriving business in Florida. He practices what he preaches, and he is the author of the best-selling book, How to Buy Mobile Homes. And the best part is, he has found a way to take these 22 years of experience and make that available to people to passively invest alongside of him. So, I have a question. I've always wondered this. Is there actually a wife? Or is that just a slogan?
Well, it started out with her working behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and it was a good marketing. And then she didn't enjoy even the behind the scenes, so we worked her out of the business.
Okay.
So it is now, I would say, more marketing, and you still bounce stuff off of each other.
Yeah.
But
Well, at
yeah,
this point, it's the brand. It's, I mean,
exactly, it is a brand.
that brand is known. I mean, for listeners who are not from Central Florida, that's a very well known brand. When you think of mobile homes, you do think of him. I've seen that. I mean, I've lived here for since 2010. I can't even think back how long ago I've seen that sign. And your shirt, it's the yellow, man. I know it. You're at all the local meets and stuff. Let me see. You got one? There you
Yep.
go.
Oh, that's
There you go.
that's the
That's the
backside.
backside.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's the side you're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah. I mean, that is synonymous with mobile homes. So I noticed you, when I do my research, you moved to Colorado, but you're still operating what, mostly in just all of Central Florida? Where are you buying mobile homes at?
So I am a really strict 30 minutes from Plant City. So within Central Florida, I even went down to this little buying diamond. So it's 30 minutes from Plant City. That's partially because I can. We do have enough
Yeah,
mobile homes and housing there. I joke
yeah.
around. My friends in Wisconsin,
It's
their
so
neighbors
true.
30 minutes away.
Yeah,
And it's a lot of it is because when I started, I was going to everything. I was doing pretty much everything, and I didn't want to drive more than 30 minutes. But if you think about it, 30 minutes each direction, that's an hour. And there were days I went every direction. So that
I
was
know.
a long day on the road. It just wasn't in my vision. So
Yeah,
I decided, all right, it's going to be a 30-minute, and I just have to maybe work a little harder because I'm going to keep myself to such a tight area. But it's the lifestyle. The
yeah,
end goal was lifestyle.
yeah. I mean, that's the key thing, and I think that's what a lot of passive investors want when they look to partner with an operator like yourself or myself. They're looking for a lifestyle, income, wealth building where they don't necessarily, they want to make it easier, and there's nothing wrong with that because it's hard enough operating a deal, let alone driving to go meet a tenant, check on a crew, or just take some photos or whatever it is. 30, and people don't understand Orlando, or not Orlando, Central Florida, Tampa, Plant City, Lakeland, like this whole I-4 corridor area. I mean, it's grown, so it's not easy to get around like it used to be. You're hitting traffic. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
And another piece of it that I didn't realize I was doing, when you get even more than 30 minutes, sometimes even in the 30-minute range, contractors don't want to go to the other side of it. They have a lot of power weight right now because they're in demand.
yeah.
And I just not someone that wants to have multiple things going on. For me, that's confusing. I know there's a lot of people that are really good. They can have all different markets. For me, just keep it super simple. I can have one crew that I have backups. We always need that. But one crew, I deal with 3 counties, so I only have to deal with understanding 3 counties.
Hmm.
You do multiple states, you have to understand all that. There's nothing wrong with it. Just wasn't in my vision to be able to do that.
Well, dealing with the counties, one thing, dealing with the counties for mobile homes becomes a little more difficult. It's not a house. A lot of places I know, like in town Lakeland, they don't like mobiles. If
Yep.
you have an old mobile, and I don't know, do you have an age preference for mobiles? Will you go back into the 70s?
Oh, I love those. So that's
Yeah.
actually how I got my success was in
Oh
the
yeah.
60s and 70s age
Oh yeah.
wise
The tin cans.
because of what you're referring to. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't want to buy them.
Hmm.
So I can help educate, you can help educate people on mobile homes, and then it's another step to get them the pre-HUD year. But that means that the value went down because there's less demand for them. There's no financing traditionally, the
Yeah.
private. There's That's how we finance them. Those and
Yeah.
then some owner financing. But I love the older ones. They
Yeah.
make really
They
good money.
they do. They do. You find kind of like on a return basis compared to, because you've been doing this. I mean, you've been heavy into mobiles for the last decade. Like, how long have you been focusing on mobiles itself? Like, if you were to say when you really gave up the single family stuff and you just went all in, what would you say? Like,
I think that was about 8 years ago. My
okay,
timeline, I always have to
so
look back at the actual calendar.
yeah, so you were doing it when things around here dirt cheap. I
Oh yeah.
mean, nobody, you would have to force people to buy properties in like Polk County and Plant City. Nobody wanted them because we weren't Tampa, we weren't Orlando, and people were like, "Oh, you're in the country."
Yep.
So you were probably picking up mobiles extremely cheap. So I imagine your ability to provide an investor, returns, because you're able to get a great return, rent it out, owner finance it, and then likewise pay your private investor, your private money lender, and get good returns. Do you find that things have changed now with the demand? Are you able to find good deals that cash flow to provide an investor returns?
Well, you said it. I was buying them dirt cheap. I was buying those older ones at dirt
They were
prices.
probably giving them to you, just like
I mean,
take
whatever
it.
the land value was
Yeah,
about what I paid for a lot of those 1960s and 70s.
yeah,
That is not so true today, as you alluded to. But
yeah,
I'm not going to buy a property if I can't pay my investors. Like
yeah.
the
Exactly.
calculator tells me what I can pay.
Oh, no.
And
So are you still finding them though? Like, are you
yeah,
still getting a
I
good
mean,
volume?
it is a little slower than it was.
Mhm.
That's partially because there's more demand there. There's other investors are now buying them. I like to joke around that they've come down to our level and buy these old
Yeah,
mobile homes and
so
trailers.
true. Yeah.
And then also the other, it's the affordable housing space. Especially with
Mm,
rates that have gone up. Let's talk about more of the newer ones, like 90s and newer.
yeah.
The homeowners now buying them. Before, maybe they were looking at them and they're like, I don't know if I really want a mobile home. Now that's what they can afford. So if they want home ownership on an acre of land, half acre of land, really they could only afford a mobile home. So before they could
It's
buy the site built home. And so the rates have really adjusted that, which has caused that demand go up, which has caused the price to go up. So fix and flip time is great for the mobile homes, the 90s and newer.
yeah.
The buy and hold, we have the other investors that are competing with us.
It's and I like so it's going to allude to this QR code I have up here. I like what you said, where you mentioned they come down to our level, because when I talk to people about mobile home parks, and mobile homes also as a part of a park, I get a few things, and most people say, "Do people really want to live in those?" Like, you people actually like people rent those from you? It can't be much, or wow, those are really like you buy those. It's always something negative. So
Mhm.
we have a little QR code for all the listeners. Adrian's gonna give away here a free ebook about 14 common myths about mobile homes that most investors or people think of when they hear that word, mobile homes. And if you want to know more, why don't you? I'm going to put down all your socials at the bottom too, so you're able to give him a follow. Give him a follow on all socials. He covers a lot of stuff. But so tell me why somebody, how do I want to say it? Why somebody should say, man, I want to give Adrian money to buy mobile homes versus saying, oh, there's this other guy buying, a nice 2,000 square foot brick home and he wants to rent that out. What's the difference?
Well, how about I give you some examples of why people have told me they've lent me money?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I have a friend that owns, I think, a few thousand doors in the apartment world, and
It's a
he
lot.
lent me money. I, I think lower rate than he can get buying more apartments, and I was actually really confused.
Yeah.
So of course I
You saw my
questioned him.
face. Yeah, why?
Well, he wants diversification.
Yeah,
Mobile homes are a different asset class than
yeah.
apartments. He just wanted to get more diversification. At some point, people have so much money that, yeah, they can go and make more, but diversification becomes very important. And it's more passive, even though he has a big team. I got other friends that have lent me money that have a good stock portfolio and everything, but they realize they're really heavy in the stock market.
Mhm.
Again, they wanted diversification. Now, those are the diversification sides of it, but a lot of people just want a better return than their savings account.
Yeah.
Or they are investors and they're not getting the return anymore because they can't find the house. So the house can't also afford to pay as much.
Mm,
Obviously, I'm a capitalist, so I do want to pay a little bit lower rates, but I
yeah.
can afford to pay higher ones. And I always make sure that it can afford a very safe for me to be able to make sure I can pay my investors, because the last thing I want to do is not be able to pay them. I mean, that
Do
is
you,
your reputation. You don't pay someone,
yeah.
you're not getting money again. And
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, so we have been bank free since April of 2022, meaning I have bank accounts. I
Yeah.
just don't actually owe money to banks. I prefer to pay interest to friends and family. It feels better when you write that check.
Yeah. Have you ever missed a payment? Ever? Any
I've never
issues?
even been on time. I'm
You're
always
always
early,
early.
always
See,
early.
that's people don't understand. That's a big deal. I just heard of this. I was talking to a buddy of mine. He does like not private, more. I mean, he's got like a little organization, so it's more hard money lending. They had to, and he doesn't. This is not his forte, but he had to take over a very small mobile home park that he lent on. He had good terms on it. I mean, he really protected himself. I think the guy put down 60%. In the end, he just yeah, I know he gets his share, but he had to take it over because they're going to foreclose on it. He's trying to sell it now after he had to straighten everything out, and it's not what he wanted to do. This
Yep.
was not his thing. So a lot of times when it comes down to lending money to someone, it really does come down to that history, the performance history. And me, I'm a big person of character. It's not just about experience. I've seen people with a lot of experience still lack the character to be able to trust with money. Someone else's money, I guess. Now, going back to it though, so okay, so you're providing these investors a return. Now, uh, how does that work? So, do they come to you and they're able to say, "Hey, I only want to invest in such and such type of deal"? Because correct me if I'm wrong. You do like you'll sell the property to somebody on owner finance, to like an end buyer on owner finance term, like a kind of like a wrap or something, and you rent it out, or does someone only lend you money when you want a rental? How does that work? Like, what are they coming to you for? What,
One of
when you
my
say
favorite.
bank free, yeah,
Yeah, so I do both of those. We have long-term rentals, and we do a few where we owner finance it out to someone. Of course, we have to comply with Dodd Frank and all of that fun legal stuff. But one of my absolute favorite things about dealing with a human being is we just talk about it. There is no like the bank says,
yeah,
well, this is what it is. I just get to have that conversation. Well, what are you actually looking for? What do you need? What's your time frame? How much are you looking to make on this investment? It doesn't matter what the number is. If they're looking for a lower interest rate, they're probably ahead of the line of the other people. And if they're
Yeah.
a really
Yeah.
high rate,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that I can't use their money, or sorry, not that I can't use their money more. It's they're probably going to be in a riskier mobile home, those 1960s and 70s we talked about, when it's a double digit rate they want. And if they're wanting a lower rate, they're probably wanting something a little bit safer. So then it's
Yeah.
probably a newer mobile home. I really, I just gather the information of what my friends and family like have and want, their goals. And then when I have something similar, I send them that opportunity. Oh,
So
it's, and then we
you'll
talk
send
about it.
them
You know, we
a
go back
deal
and forth a little bit.
basis. Yeah, you'll send like, hey, I think this fits for John or Brandon. I talked to Brandon before, and he's looking for something, and he said he's looking for X rate, and I could do that on this one. So you'll kind of send that to me and say, hey, what are you thinking? Or hop on the phone, and say that. So you'll
Exactly.
match
You know, I
make
had
kind of.
one. I think it was last year. I think he had misread part of the
Yeah,
opportunity, and he
yeah.
didn't realize how long I was asking to have the money for.
So
So
how
he
long
said,
do you
"Hey,"
typically? Yeah, go ahead.
he said, "I don't want it out that long." He's like, "I may not be alive." When I explained, well, why don't you
I've heard
pass
that.
on to
I've heard that
your
before. Yeah,
future friend, family or whoever you're passing everything on? And he's like, "No, no, no, I want to spend it all." Oh, okay, that's up to you. And so he wanted shorter time. Well, I said, well, we have to adjust it now because that makes my payment higher.
yeah.
And I can't have my payment higher because it makes it an unsafe investment for me and for you.
For
Because if
them, yeah.
it's unsafe for me, there's a chance I can default, and I never want to do that. So I'm not willing to do it. So we end up playing with the numbers back and forth. And essentially, we went from a full so we were going to amortize the whole thing to an interest only loan, and we had to drop the rate a little bit, and he was okay with that because it was more important for him to get all his money back than a higher rate.
So would you do like a balloon? You structured
Yeah,
like a
so we
balloon
ended up
payment?
doing a
Yeah.
balloon on it, and it, that worked for me. My scary part for people and myself for balloons, which means that all of a
Yeah.
sudden all his money's due, is I don't want multiple in a year. And that's more like
Yeah.
multiple, like an amount. I can have a $10,000 one. Well, that maybe not be as much, but I don't want like two $100,000 because
Yeah.
so I make sure I space them out really well, and I have enough time ahead of time. I don't like start looking 2 months out. Oh yeah, I need to pay this off. No, I start
So
looking 6 months, even sometimes a year out. All right,
to
well, how do
because
I
you're
pay this
planning.
off, or do we want to
Yeah.
extend it? We have those conversations really early.
So so I want to go back to time frame here. So you said two things. So I'm looking to invest with you, right? And I understand you're going to match make with me, but and we're going to find the right deal and we're going to negotiate terms. But if I said typically, so you amortize them out fully. So like what type of so two questions. What type of length would that typically be that my money would be tied up with you? And then in this balloon example, what kind of time frame would that be? I'm assuming it's one of your shorter ones, right? Like a shorter time frame of investment. So kind of what's a range that I could expect that my money would be tied up before getting paid back on?
I actually can't even answer that because
Okay.
I don't have a formula on that. For me, my most important piece is that monthly payment because
Yeah.
that's the cash flow part, and that's the danger part of if money's not coming in the right amount, well, I
Yeah.
can't pay it. So
Exactly.
that's the number I actually start with. The most I can pay a month on it. And then we start working the other direction. All right. I look at, well, let's say it has a balloon. What years do I have balloons already coming up? So it could be 6 years out. It could be 10. It depends on my other mortgages I already have because I have to look
Yeah.
at everything.
Yeah.
And I don't like to do today less than 4 years.
Yeah. I don't go less than
Just
five.
it becomes too much moving parts.
It's too dangerous, man.
Yeah.
You go less
So
than five with this economy, you don't know, and you don't want to default. And like, hey, I can't predict where the economy is going to be. Five allows me to ride out any craziness, and so I can't. Like I've had a lot of guys ask for three, and it's like I'll just say no. Like I respect it.
yeah.
Um, I just can't take that money at 3 years with a balloon because look at the last 3. I mean, we're going into
Yeah,
year three
it's
of
something
like
I
this.
throw back at someone that says something that short is all right, well, if we do 3 years, I want to be able to pay a small percentage of it off with for the right to extend it. So maybe I give them $5,000 of the principal back that extends it another 3 years.
Mhm.
So we could just
It's
have
an,
those conversations, and if that
and that's
works for
that
them,
creativeness, yeah, where you're
yeah,
getting to.
you know, and that's again, it just goes back to, well, what do you really need, and how can I help provide that? And then we have to just talk back and forth, and that's why it's important for the investor to be really honest
Yeah.
of what they want. And their first time, they're always a little skittish. You know, it's their first time doing it, a little nervous. It's not so traditional. You don't go to the
It
bank and lend like this.
100%.
And
I mean, they're over here giving away 401k money or whatever savings, whatever it is to you. Um, I'm assuming you're using a whole loan agreement. You're
oh yeah,
recording the mortgage, the note. Everything's going to be recorded. It's not like you're just handing a piece of paper saying, "Here, put that in your sock drawer," and everything's going to be done on the up and up and recorded. So you actually have an AM table, everything that they're going to get when you
yeah.
guys make that final deal.
Oh yes, yeah. We always have the mortgage, and to touch on that a little bit, there's first position mortgage, second, third. There's all different
I was gonna
positions,
ask you about that. Yeah.
and again, that changes. If you have a second position, I've had someone in second position before, and let's do a real quick on that. First position gets
Okay.
paid off first,
Yep.
second, second, so it keeps going through. Well, a second position sounds scary to a lot of people, but if
It
you
does.
have, let's say, a $50,000 loan on a $100,000 property, and it's in second position, but first position is $5,000. Well, that's not that scary.
What's the big deal, right? You're gonna get you.
Because yeah,
Yeah.
worst case, I stop making payments and you have to foreclose on it. You actually get to take over the first position, so you have great value, loan to value there. But if that first position was $80,000 and it's a $5,000 loan, yeah, maybe because it's a small amount of money, but those numbers don't feel very safe there. So it's not always the position, but typically as second, third, as it keeps going on, position gets paid a little bit more than it
Yeah.
would if it was in first position because there is more paperwork. You are in second or third
Yeah.
position. It just means you
It's a
you
little
make a little
riskier.
bit more money.
You get rewarded for that risk, sort of.
Exactly.
What was I trying to say? So when they're doing this, I mean, what's the typical? I know everything's different, but like, how much money would somebody typically be looking to lend to you? Do they need to have 50? Because for us, on like mobile home parks, we have like a minimum investment amount.
Mhm.
Of course, we're raising equity, you're doing debt, but like, do you have a minimum amount that you would do?
That is a great question. I started and I was buying those dirt cheap ones we talked
Yeah, yeah,
about.
yeah. Yeah, you're picking them up. Yeah, 5 grand, 10 grand, probably.
Yeah, it was very easy. My average yield then was in the mid 20s thousands. So it was easier because a lot of people have smaller amounts in their IRAs because they don't have enough to invest with you yet,
Hmm.
or they're skittish on their first time doing it, so they just want to only put out a little bit, and then once they feel safe with it and they understand the process, now they're like, all right, here's a lot more money. Oh, I was able to help a lot more people at that time. Now I'm doing deals that are a little bit higher, 150,000
Okay.
is uh I'd say the price points I've been buying at.
That's
But I
kind of
bought
where the
one
market is. Yeah.
I bought one earlier this year for 37,000.
Okay.
So it
So you don't have a
changes.
minimum per se, but it's definitely not where it was back in
It,
2014 or 15, just because of where the market economy is.
yeah, and you know, I think the actual answer of it is very similar to the rate someone wants. If they have a
Yeah.
smaller amount of money, it's going to take me longer to put it to work. If they have
Okay.
a larger amount of money, I can probably put it to work quicker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I
And
do
now, if
have
I have a,
someone recently I'm actually
yeah,
talking with. She said she had $15,000.
there you go. That's a good example.
Well, I have a $10,000 loan on one of them now that wants to get paid off.
So you swap out and say, okay, listen, I'll swap you out, and you'll
Exactly.
take this
And
position in this one.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there's opportunity there. I could take my own money, and that's what I've been thinking through. All right, do I just want to pay this off and have no debt on it, which I do enjoy having at times, or do I want to swap them out? I will say that older one, that's the $10,000, is before I had a massively proven track record. So it's a little bit higher rate.
Hmm.
So then for me, I can replace it with a lower rate because now I have a really good proven track record. And
Yeah.
also, this property itself is not a new purchase. I can say, look, here's all the years of rental
There's,
history, everything.
yeah.
That's a more stable and predictable investment for the person that's putting their money in versus here's what we're buying and we think it's going to do this. And
Hmm.
I always go really conservative of what I think, but it's what I think. I could
Yeah.
be wrong because the market can change so quick. And so there's different ways of putting people's money to work. The short answer again is if you have more money, it can get to work a little bit quicker and easier.
Yeah, I get that now. I mean, if I had the 15, I could ascend. Let's say you had someone, you had $115,000 raise. Somebody was giving you 100. I could take second position in that example
Exactly.
if
And
I wanted to. Yeah.
yeah, and I've had people that knew each other to lend together. I try to keep it as simple as possible.
Mhm.
So I have done that. I will do that again. But if I had someone that just has all of it,
That's
it
so
just makes
much
it simple.
easier.
Just like you,
It's
if
so
you
much easier. Yeah,
if you have fewer investors in it, it's just less moving parts through
it
everything.
is. Yeah, everything costs less too because filing paperwork. I know it's different for what I do versus what you do on the desk side, but it's all
But
everything is a
there's
process.
still
It's
more
all
paperwork.
yeah, it still costs money every single individual person, and then like we're paying distributions out for the quarter that we just finished. The more investors you have, the more wires you have to send, the more calls you have to make.
Yep.
It's a process. So yes, I get what you're saying with that. Now, I was thinking of something. So I had a problem. I remember, and I ended up getting the loan for it from a guy, but a couple people I called. I was buying in 1973, and I mean, I had picked it up dirt cheap. I forget what it was. Like this was years ago, maybe 30K. It was just an old home, and that was dirt cheap back then. But
Yeah.
old home. But I couldn't get insurance on it in the condition that it was in. I was gonna fix it up, and I had some guys like, "Well, you need insurance." I'm not gonna. I'm like, listen, like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna fix this thing up. And yes, we can then get insurance on it. But if I try to get this thing bound now, they're gonna come back to me and say you need to fix the stairs, you need to fix this, your policy's not valid. And I could lie to you about it and say that I'm gonna get it, but here's the truth. So when you're buying these old ones, right? Do your investors, are they comfortable because of your experience, or do you still get insurance? Do you have a lender for those old ones, or do you self insure? What do you do to keep that asset protected before it's rehabbed, of
Great
course,
question. And this is a very timely question because insurance seems to get worse every year.
especially in
Not just in
Florida?
Florida, it is around the whole
Yeah,
country, but
yeah,
but we're bad.
yeah.
So as of January 1st of this year,
Hmm.
2024, we cannot get coverage on the home in the individual mobile home world. I think you can still in your parks,
Yeah,
but the individuals on the 1960s and 70s. I have one company that's telling me they can, but honestly, I've been trying for 4 months to get the coverage written. So
yeah,
I think that they're having trouble. Though we do self insure some of those older ones. We get liability regardless of anything. Like when I say self insure, I actually mean I still have $1 million liability policy because I actually think that's the biggest risk in this world
yeah,
today because we're in Sue Happy America.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to cover that basis on it. Now, we have some people that, yes, they want insurance, they feel safer with insurance. That's fine. I just have less properties I can place them on. We
Cool.
have some other people that say, look, I don't really care. You have liability, you're taking care of it. They usually feel a little safer, those people, because I'm giving them really good loan to value. I'm not asking for 90% of what it's worth. I mean, we've got stuff at 50% of what it's worth, or
Yeah.
just a little bit over land value.
But
So the
to
worst
be
case,
clear,
the
they're
hurricane
giving
blows it
you,
away. Well, they still
yeah.
have the land.
When you say for everyone else, though, when you say loan to value, just to clarify, if you're buying it for 50K, you're still asking for the 100% of your cost, but you're saying that it's worth, even at purchase, because you're getting such a good deal, because this is what you do for a living, it's worth the value of it could be 80,000 or 75, 90,000, but it costs you 50, so you're still going to raise 50K or maybe more if you raise rehab money if you need it to.
Yeah, this goes back to the it depends. I
It
hate that
depends.
every answer is
No, no,
that.
no. Well, that's how
Some of
real
them,
estate works.
yes, I have raised enough money to pay for the whole property and the rehab, absolutely everything, and they're still getting a great return because I found a great deal. And then sometimes, like, I really like the property. I'm going to put some of my own money in it. So I'm actually raising less than I'm even purchasing it for, and I'm putting the rehab money in it. Sometimes that's because I just want more cash flow and I have my own cash sitting around. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah.
I want to put it to work.
You want to put it to work, you
So
pay
it
less interest.
it
I mean, it works.
changes
Yeah,
up, or maybe you just only have $40,000 and it's $50,000 property, and I just really want to put your money to work.
yeah,
So I'll put 10 of my own. It changes around, but yes, I always make sure that there's extra value there. But I look at, besides the loan to value, the more important to me is the rent. How much is my payment, and how much of the actual rent? So then we have to take out, I take out the numbers for property management, even though we self-manage, but I still want
yeah,
to account for that. The property management, the taxes, the insurance we talked about, like taxes mean property taxes, saving for maintenance and repairs. And then I save up so much, and then, the extra would come to me. But I want to make sure I can save for the roof, the
yeah. You're taking a
plumbing. Yeah,
reserve. It's just smart.
taking all reserves. So I'm doing
A lot
all
of
of
guys
that,
don't do that. Yeah,
and then I want to make sure I can pay them, and I have a profit for me.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my
Well,
profit comes out of all of that. So those numbers get really safe. And one reason I also want a buffer profit for me is if we get in a situation where we have to drop rents some, I want to drop rents and still be able to make money for myself and still be able to pay everything else we just talked about.
you got to be conservative. I've seen a lot of guys, especially when you see wholesalers sending out deals, and and I get it. Everyone's got different requirements of what makes a good deal for them. But they'll send out and they'll be like, oh, 10 cap or whatever it is. And again, you shouldn't capitalize residential rentals, but regardless, that's what they do. And you take a look at their numbers, and it's always off of gross. And you're like,
Yeah.
what about vacancy? Like, what about the, yeah? So maybe they've done taxes or something, but like, what about the AC that you said was 15 years old? So a lot of people, when they look at the numbers, they just take a look at gross. I mean, I was
Yep.
talking to a seller yesterday trying to sell me something, and all she kept talking about was how much the rent is. I'm like, well, I get that. I was like, so that's what your rent rate is, but how much do you spend? And her response is, not much. I go, says every single seller ever in the history of real estate. But how much is not much? And she's like, well, and it's only pulling in 5 grand. And she's like, well, I pay $1,000 a month for this, and then I got 200 for this. I'm like, starting to sound like a lot. Doesn't sound like a
Yep.
little, but so being conservative and making sure you're accounting for those things, so you still have the room to pay yourself and pay your investors. And obviously, this is something that's very lucrative for you. So compared again to single family houses, I mean, are you cash flowing better than if I put that same money into a single family house? Do you think it would cash flow better in a mobile home than it would in a single family?
Of course, every day in the mobile home. I mean,
Yeah,
they sell for less. Even, I mean, on the same street, the mobile home
yeah,
and then the house,
for the
and
same
then you
square
have the
footage.
same, finished product of it. The mobile home will sell for a little bit less because of people's perceived values on them, the stereotypes we talked about. But they can rent for the same. When it's in that scenario, they'll rent for the same.
Yeah, they will. Yeah, they will. Well, let me ask you this. Talking about myths, I haven't read your ebook here, but what about the people?
I'm gonna say it for you so you can be the good guy. The trailer
Yeah.
trash. So people,
Yes,
the
I wasn't
term.
gonna say I wasn't gonna say it,
I'll
bro.
say
But
it.
yeah, I mean that's what everyone when
Yes.
you think in your mind, like when you think. So we think of this mobile home, right? This thing on wheels or in this park, because that's what people think of,
Yep.
this trashy type of element, and then they think of the demographic that lives there, and they think of illegal activities, the law, the not making any money. How do they pay you? Do you find any of that's true? Is that a myth that you're busting in this? Like, what are your thoughts on the people?
Yeah. So that can be true, but it can also be true in apartment complexes. It can be true in a house. It can be true in any type of structure. But all of a sudden, we put wheels on it to bring it in, and it's trailer trash because
Yeah.
some movies and Netflix specials, and it's all funny. I have found is the location, not the
Mhm.
structure. that deems this. So, yes, I have seen some quote unquote trailer trash out there, but that same road had some concrete structures that were the same class of people, the same end product that I wouldn't want to own a property there. We go after properties or where people want to live, and we look for properties that blue collar handyman handy women, that's our avatar resident, want to live. And I'll tell you, it's not uncommon that we drive by a month or so after they've moved in and they've made it their home. I'm talking about when we rent them, not that we're selling it to them.
I know the
They
type
make it,
that you're talking about.
yeah, their home, and they take pride in their home, not their trailer, their mobile home, not their house, their home. That's a place that people live with their family and they take pride in it. And so we haven't found that to be true when we buy it in the right area
Yeah.
and we fix it up. It doesn't have to be a beautiful end product, but we don't give them a product that's falling
Yeah.
apart.
You put Humpty Dumpty back together again, essentially, and you rent it out. Now, you know, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but could you spitball me what your across all of your portfolio, what average rents would be? Like, where would you say you fall in the spectrum of what a typical rent rate would be for the average person renting from you?
So this is a very common question I get, and it is a difficult one because I am able to take that older 1960s and not give it a polished finish.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
those are
get
going to
it.
be more of
You
a,
rent it a little bit lower.
yeah, I rent it lower. It it fulfills a need that people don't realize that people can't afford more.
I
And I can go
100%
and put
agree with
the
you.
new
Yeah.
kitchen in it that it
But then they
arguably
can't afford
need.
it, and now they don't have a home.
Exactly. So we have those, and those are in the true deep affordable housing space, the workforce housing
Four,
space. And
400, 500. Do
no,
you go
no,
that
those
low?
those are around seven.
So okay, so
On
you're
the very
going
low end, they're at 7.
700. That's
But then let's
affordable. Where are you finding $700 rent for a
exactly.
home with a yard that I could park my car in front of and bring my groceries in?
Exactly. And they don't want to move. For one, they can't afford to go somewhere else. And yes, there's rent increases built into it all, but they have somewhere to live. And I've
Yeah.
had people move in saying I was paying more for worse.
For less space too. A lot of times people come from apartments
Oh yeah.
and they're getting 1,000 square feet. I was talking to someone next to one of our parks, and the two bedrooms are renting at like 1,500, and we have like 3 bedroom older 80s models of mobile homes, and we're renting them out for like 800, 875, and it's like, where would you like? I get it, but where would you rather live? You're talking affordability. Now,
Yeah.
granted, the location's different. I'm not sitting next to Walmart. The apartments were next to Walmart. I'm not next to Walmart, but I am in like you got like a third of an acre yard. You got a driveway. You have a front porch. Now, do you think? Would you say in your portfolio rents get really like? What would be your example of like your highest rent when you do something like this?
Yeah, let's talk about the high side of it. That's going to be a 1990s build.
Yeah,
So the newest
something
unit,
newer.
newest
Yeah,
unit I have is a 1999, and it has
those are
a
nice.
really nice finish to it. It's not granite countertops. It's the Formica, but it's a nice finish. It's a acre and it's
Oh,
fenced. It has a little shed on it. So remember my avatar, the blue collar handyman, handy woman. They
yeah, that's nice.
value this
They
fenced
love the
yard
sheds, bro. They
for their
love
animals.
sheds.
They value that little
They love
workshop.
sheds. They love sheds.
It's rented at $2,000 a month.
Holy shit.
And so why wouldn't they just go down the street to the
Yeah,
community that's renting it about $2,000 a month with a more polished finish? And I put the air
nah,
quotes there.
yeah. They want the acre and the shed and the fence.
Exactly. And they don't want the HOA because they have a utility trailer because they cut grass for a living.
Yeah, no, yeah. You
So
can't
they
do
they
that.
actually don't want that house
No,
because they're going to get trouble there. They want that yard. They bring for us, they bring their chickens and their rabbits and their, barn animals, and they take good care of the property. So we have them that have rented for the same as any single family house in this common area because they're taking that land that you just said. They're taking in the account of that. They may not be, fully doing all the math on it, but now they don't have to park their utility trailer somewhere else. My uncle once had his work van towed from an HOA.
Yeah, the HOAs.
The guy that was working for him drove it home, and one night they towed it because it had the magnetic
Your
sticker on the
van,
side
yeah,
of it.
your sticker. I got a letter for that when I rented it in HOA for my thing,
Yeah,
and I was like, kidding me right now? That was my I was from PA. We didn't have HOAs back then. HOAs were new when I moved to Florida, or new to me, and I was like,
uh
some of these, it's just complicated.
huh.
So hang on. So you're between 700 and 2,000. Do you think, like, where would you say? I'm just trying to figure out the affordability nature of who
Yes,
who we're helping in this. Would you say the majority of your stuff is sub 1,000, sub 1,500? Where do you
right
think, like,
there.
you're at? Sub
I
15
sub 1,500. I
for
like
three
to keep
bedrooms.
2 and 3 bedrooms.
Two and
But
three. I mean, dude, you're not getting the apartments over here are like $1,800 for two bedrooms.
yeah,
I mean, and you're in an apartment. Granted, it's like a new build, but you're still in a parking lot on the fifth floor, and you're talking like a tiny 1,200 square foot two bedroom. I mean, and you're over here giving out an entire home.
yeah, I like to keep the majority of portfolio under the $1,500 rent
That's smart. Yeah.
because that's about the cap of the higher end of the affordable housing space
Mhm.
and for our area. And I'm just concerned. You can call me a pessimist, whatever you want to call me. I think we're really close to a recession. If we're not in one, like that's just we are really close to
I've
one,
been, I've
closer
been
to one
saying
than
that.
we are from the start.
Just
So
waiting for it to happen.
I want to be very safe. And the affordable housing space, I mean, what happens in a recession if you go back and study them? If you have a two household income, which the internet told me those people have about $200 extra a month. So whatever it is, $200 or $300 extra a month. One of them will probably lose their job in a recession because that is very common. So now they don't have enough to pay. So now they come down a rent level, and that continues to happen until the affordable housing space, where we have most of our properties.
People come to us in those times.
Exactly. So
There's
they may not
doesn't go
want to
any
live there,
lower.
but they have to. That means we have
Yeah.
a much larger
Yeah.
applicant pool so
Yeah.
that we can pick from the very best person to make sure that we have someone in there taking care of the property and we can pay our bills. We don't have to lower rents. So when I buy one, actually, this happened early this year. I bought one and it was in the middle of, where the rent would be because of how I would fix it up. Well, I ran my numbers at like 1,500 and I was able to get 1,800.
Mm.
And that's because the rents were pushing at the time. I think they have flattened a little bit since then. But I wanted that gap because if it goes vacant and we're in tougher times, I want to be able to bring it down to that 1,500 and still be able to pay my
Be able
investor,
to move it.
make a little
Yeah.
bit of money because that is where I feel like that is a real good number for the affordable housing in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I'm talking to people about investing with me on just mobile home parks and stuff, it's like you have this aspect of, okay, so you're in a house, then you have an apartment, and then below that you have mobile homes. Below that you have homelessness, pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. Like maybe in our, I guess nowadays you could say RVs or tiny homes are kind of going down into that range, but we pretty much where you go. So if you're used to spending $2,000 for a three bedroom to fit your family, and you come over to my park or one of your mobiles, and you're like, "Oh my god, I'm getting land and stuff," and here we are, and I'm only paying 1,200 or 1,100, whatever it is. They're now saving 700, 800, 900. They're
Yep.
saving so much money. That's groceries, that's utility bills, that's cell phones, that's gas money that they were missing out on. So a lot of people do look to us for that affordable housing. And then you gave the example of $700. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so you have this range that people can play with and figure out what it is they actually need and then rent that. Where without mobiles, and I'll throw RVs in there, like this mobile category of homes. I mean, what are their options? Because apartments are just so
Yep.
expensive now. Like they're just, I mean, the rents have pushed way too high on apartments.
I want to give two examples to help back up what the brilliance that you just said. Uh, First one was during COVID
Yeah.
when people quote unquote couldn't pay rent and all the things happened. We didn't have anyone get more than 30 days behind.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
went out and they made their money. They found
Yeah.
money. I mean, we even told people, hey, we'll work with you, keep good communication, and then they would pay on the first, even though we basically said we'll waive some fees.
Yeah.
And I call them up. Oh, what happened? You got your job back? No, I went and mowed lawns.
Yeah.
Like
Because there's
they have
nowhere
pride.
else to go.
Yes.
There's nowhere lower to go, especially in like where we're at in like Central Florida. I
Oh yeah.
mean, those rent rates that he's saying, I don't think people can, you know, you can't really understand how cheap that is compared to where Central Florida has gotten to. If you talked to us like 15 years ago, that would have been, I mean, you could have
Yeah.
rented a mansion for that much.
Other,
Okay.
I have one more example I want to give on that,
Yeah.
just because so many people haven't been around or forget that last recession because it's been so long ago.
Yeah. No.
Well, at that time, I was not a mobile home investor, but I did have a shared house, so I rented out by the room. And I mean, that would probably be the only place that's lower dollars than our mobile home,
Yeah,
but you're not
Pat.
bringing
Yeah.
family in that. You're
No.
it's a single
No,
person.
that's not what. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So in that time though, during the last recession, I had 0 day turnovers. Someone moved out in the morning and someone moved in.
No.
I had underwriters for mortgage companies that owned an H2 Hummer or whatever, and they lived
Yeah,
there
dude.
because the rent was
Yeah.
so low.
Hmm.
They needed somewhere because they want to cut costs quick.
Yes.
Single guy, single girl, or they were moving in town when no one else could get a job and they got their job from out of town. They want to live there before they had their whole family move. So, like that lower price point during a recession, it is massive demand. There's so many different reasons. And we're doing in the family world.
Yeah.
The single rooms are for the single person because you can't bring a whole family and live in a you know
100. Yeah,
100
you're
square
not doing
foot
like
room.
what people are calling a pad split now, but yeah, back then
Yeah,
it wasn't called
exactly.
pad split. I just want to say, I talk to a lot of people. I've been doing this about 14, 15 years, so like you could tell when people are in the business. And I was around during the last recession, and I don't think anyone understands that the fact that you've referenced that scenario with an H2 Hummer only lends and supports that you have been doing this a long time, because that was it. Because I had people working for me and I was foreclosing on people because I worked for the banks back then when I was as an agent or a broker. But we were going into homes and like people were getting, they had their H2 in the front. I mean, those were like so popular. It was an
Yeah.
H2 or like the Cadillac CTS or whatever it was. It was an H2 or a Cadillac, and that's what you were kicking out. I knew so many realtors who had H2s. They couldn't afford, they couldn't even give those things back because they dropped in value. So the H2, when you said that, I was like, yeah, this dude was around. He remembers that. So I had a question here. I know we're hitting some time here, but I'm an investor and I'm looking at you. You're talking about this virtual running of a business, and you want me to give you 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand to do this. How do I know that my asset is, or my investment with you is protected? What kind of team, like what processes and team do you have to collect rent, to visit the properties, to make sure that, Joe in unit, the paying 2 grand a month or whatever is actually going to pay? How are you collecting rent from that far? Because people ask, because I own parks in Georgia and Arkansas, and people are like, Brandon, you're in Florida. I'd feel more comfortable if you live next to it. And I'm like, well, and so what do you say to people, or like, what do you have? Who's on your team, man? You must have a team.
I do have a team, and I'm going to start out with the single family world. Me
Yeah.
is traditionally like a one man shop, one woman shop. They do a little bit of everything, and they do it okay. A lot of the small business stereotypes become true. Well, I have transitioned my business before I even decided to ever move to be a business like you are. Like mobile home parks are businesses, and they're
Yeah.
usually ran like a business. Now the traditional, who you're buying from, is probably the mom and pop that did everything.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Like,
True.
but so I started to make it a business,
Yeah.
and that was one of the key pieces. So yes, we use softwares, we use the cloud. I try not to have too much expenses there, so it really has. If I'm going to add an expense, it has to really add value to us. And I do have a stay-home mom, and she is a part-time. She's my office manager, so she's my, we'll say, boots on the ground, because I create a good system that I can do most of it virtually, but you still can't go physically put a lockbox.
Hmm.
Like there's no technology for making that appear all of a sudden on a property.
Yeah.
Well, so she does that stuff, and then you have a team of like just friends. That's one of reasons that you should connect and network with people in your industry, because yeah, there's been times I couldn't go look at a property and call up, hey Liz, you bought tons of mobile homes, you know the area really well. Do you mind going just inspecting this for me?
Yeah.
Buy you lunch, whatever. And she's like, no, you don't really buy me. She enjoys helping because I'm gonna help her.
Yeah. So
So
you have a
there's
good
just
network.
having a team like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we use softwares right now. We're using Rent Tech for our collecting.
So that was my question. You're getting everything paid online. You're not doing cash. You're not physically collecting. They could
at
do cash
this,
pay
so we
stuff
are
like
literally
that.
in a transition
Yeah.
of getting onto that software. Before that, we had a deposit only card. I still like that system. There's a few banks that will allow it. It's like your debit card, but only you can put money in. So they can go to any bank. Bank of America is who we had, and that's one reason I'm
Never
trying to
heard
get
of
away
this.
from
Yeah.
it. I just don't like that name.
I hate banking. Yeah. I hate banking.
Well, they can go put money in. And
Yeah.
there is a little bit of a challenge of doing this because there is still a lot of people that only have cash.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
And so I wasn't able to
in
do
this
this.
demographic. In this demographic, you're
Yes.
dealing with a lot of people who have cash.
I tried to go more virtual, online and stuff years ago, and I found that people were literally opening a bank account just to put money in and
Just to pay.
transfer it to
Yeah.
me. I was like, collectively, they're paying tons of fees,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
There's
just
always
felt like the
fees
banks were
involved when you
winning
do
more.
this. Yeah. They
But now
definitely.
with this system, it works. It's the few people that don't have accounts. It's not a heavy fee on them. They don't have, all they have is physical cash. Like, there's, believe it or not, there's people out there that don't have a bank account. I know you understand
I
it.
I did not know that until I
Yes.
bought my first mobile home park. I mean, I've dealt with it on rentals, but I just assumed it was rare. And
Yep.
then like you do this, and people are like, I don't have a bank. Like I just pay in cash. And you're like, what do you mean you don't? How do you buy things? Like what do you
Yep.
do? Like I just use cash. I'm like, what?
I
Yeah,
used to think we're going to a cashless society, and then I was like, no, either we're not going to, or they're really going to squash out the lower
it's gonna. It
income.
would. If I mean, that's a whole other convo. I
Yep.
think of that when people make that argument about like, central bank currencies and all that, and getting rid of cash. I'm like there's a whole segment of our economy that would
Yeah.
get wiped out. Now, I mean, anyway, for us, for cash stuff, we have like cash pay. They could go into Walmart.
Yep.
They could pay at one of these facilities. They could pay that way. But you're pretty streamlined, or you're switching over to this process of streamlined. I mean, do you do for money? But do you do? Do you check on your properties annually? Like, what do you do? Do you do a drive by? Do they send you photos? Like, how do you make sure they're not tearing up the property?
Our system to get in our properties is pretty stringent. You
So you're
can't just,
screening. You're
yeah, our
just
screening system, like, you can't just like move in tomorrow.
yeah.
It is work. They have to really prove that they want this property, they can pay on time, and they're going to take care of this property. Now, we set them up that they will do really well as residents if they stay a really long time.
Mhm.
So, like, if you look at some of the financial, some of the system we have, they benefit by staying a long time. And if they move out in a year, we benefit financially. And we don't want to benefit financially. We want them to be there a long time.
Yeah.
So that helps set that precedence. I mean, we go over it over and over. Like, this is your home. Your job is to take care of it. We are here to assist you. And we have very good luck with that. Now, we have chosen not to do inspections of inside the house. I personally want privacy, and the people that live in our homes, they don't want someone running through their house every year. We have not had any issues with that, but yes, we will do drive-by stuff. And every once in a while, you see the trampoline there. Like, hey, you can't have that
So
trampoline.
you're a no trampoline guy too, huh?
And you know why I'm not? And actually, it scared me to ever get on a
Liability.
trampoline again. I asked insurance about getting coverage. How much would it be? Because I liked the people that wanted to move in, and they said, we will not give you coverage. There
Yeah.
is no amount you can pay. And if
Yeah.
an insurance company is not willing to charge you a ton of money for something, it's a scary item, and it has scared me
Yeah.
to get on a trampoline since.
Um, I I'm gonna mess this up, but I think of the park we just took over. We had six or seven trampolines and like three in ground, like above ground, not in ground, above ground, Walmart style
Yep.
mini pools in the yard. And the level of disappointment when I knocked on each door, being like, that needs to go. You can either sell it Or when I have crews here, they will throw it out for you, but you have like two, we gave them time, 2 weeks, whatever. And they'd say, why? And I'd tell them insurance, and they would look at me like, dude, you're lying about this. And I'm like, where are you in the world that like you don't understand that that's not a dangerous thing to be bouncing up and down? Like, I've never been a fan of trampolines, not just as a landlord, but even like as a kid, like they're
Yeah.
not my cup of tea. I've seen too many injuries of kids and their teeth and their face and just
Yep.
like falling off and breaking limbs.
Yeah. And I mean, at one point in my life, I had that little tiny personal one, and I was
Yeah.
doing a Tony Robbins
Yeah. Yeah.
planning and stuff with it. But even at times, that would feel unsafe. I'm like, man, I almost sprained my ankle, and
Yeah.
I'm
You're
like
talking those little. Yeah.
4 inches off the ground, and
I know. Those things hit a wave for a while. The little bouncy ones, the little like exercise ones. Yeah, I
yep.
get what you're saying. And they say like the in-ground trampolines are supposed to be safer, but to me, I'm still jumping like 10 feet in the air. Who's the grass,
Yeah.
the hard ground is like right over there. So I don't know. But yeah, we don't let them in. So that's good. You do drive-bys, you check out for those things because when you don't, like, and I think it's funny because like it's not just about checking in on a property, but the way you said the screening, and we talked about mom and pops before, who we're buying it from, like who you're buying mobiles from, or the typical landlord. A lot of those people, they don't screen. They allow those things. So that's what I also think gives mobile homes a bad rap. And it's not just in the mobile home space, it is in the single family space. But you see, they never visit the property. They allow them to do whatever they want. The place gets run down. They're not screening. Payments start to get delinquent. And that's where you get that, what you said earlier, trailer park or trailer trash. And I
I'll
think a
give you
lot of it has to do with the landlord.
exactly, and uh, so I have a CFO, a fractional
Yeah.
CFO. I pay him money to make sure get all the books right and everything. That's because typically that's not entrepreneur's strong point. Like we're good at
No,
the
no, no.
business side.
I got somebody too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was telling me the other day, which was felt great compliment. He's just like, your stuff takes a tiny bit longer to fill because he does this for lots of investors, but you're having a longer time that people stay in your properties.
Yeah. How long?
And it was just like a newer concept to
Yeah.
him. He's just like your screening is something different because like
Yeah.
yeah, it takes a little bit longer, but people stay so much longer there. And I have never seen anyone get the math and show me that turnover makes them more money. For one, we
Yeah.
have to work, but when you
Yeah.
have turnover, you don't make money. Like
You
it
don't.
costs you money. That rare example when I said I had like 0 day turnover because it was the room situation. That's the exception to the rule. 1 month, you're a twelfth of your income is gone, and then you have to do some work to the
100%. I've only talked to people who say that are mom and pops. I bought 2 parks from 2 people who have said those lines to me. Like, I have people on a waiting list. As soon as this thing becomes vacant, I have people moving in the next day. And like, that's true. They're not lying to me.
Yep.
But they don't do anything. And the property just keeps degrading, and then the cost of those repairs only get exacerbated. They just keep just growing and compounding. And so yeah, it's like turnover. Those guys may argue with you and say, no, I don't have turnover because I have a waiting list.
Well,
But for us, we try to turn in under 30 days, but we still, even our easiest ones, by the time we get a cleaning crew, by the time we'll get like, we'll spray for pests too, just do
oh
a
yeah.
once over before we put people in. And let's just say I gotta, like, I don't know, a faucet or some touch up paint, something. Maybe we're under 700. It's still, I'm still spending like 600, 700 on a minimum. That's barring any crazy appliance or anything I got to do. Like, there goes some of my income.
The other thing is that mom and pop, they did everything themselves that you just mentioned, and
Yeah.
they just had some extra can of paint, and it may not
Mm-hmm.
match perfectly, and they threw that on there, and they don't
The
value their
landlord
time at
special.
all.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
paid $0, so they're
Yeah.
not running a business again. And that's the other thing I've found that they don't do any of that. But I have to pay
You,
people to do it,
you've developed that
like
process. Yeah.
especially like when it's an electrical work. I'm not an electrician, but your
Yeah.
mom and pop is like, I can go and do it, and then there's electrical fire one day, and then there's a
Yeah.
lawsuit, and everyone's in trouble, and you
Never
lose your
gets it. Or
asset, and yeah,
worse, it burns down. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So what? So lifestyle REI. What kind of is your goals and future with the career path that you've chosen with this? You seem been doing it a while. You're pretty secure in what you're doing. You got good processes and systems. So, kind of, what's your goals and future looking like? What you got planned?
So I'm going to continue buying. There's still people
Yeah,
that need help. I still enjoy buying properties, helping people. If I can buy and make some more money, yeah, it increases my lifestyle, but also I can pay my team a little bit more. We can buy some more systems. So that business, we're just tweaking it right now, but it's going to keep humming along. We're not going to
mm,
change a lot there. In the education side, the
yeah,
lifestyle REI is I love teaching. It's a passion business of mine. I love helping. Some people might say this was an hour of work just now. I'm like, no, this was an hour of
it's
fun.
not this. Yeah, this is not work. This is just two
Yeah, so
dudes
I
talking
I
about what they love.
love this. I love
Yeah,
going and helping and teaching. So yeah, I teach. I have courses. Sometimes I teach live in person. Uh, I love helping. I mean, you already know there's not a bunch of education out there, so there's a lot of people doing it wrong. I thank you for getting this out there so people can understand more. So I like to help with that, as you're doing as well, breaking some of these stereotypes that are out there on mobile homes. And as long as that stays fun, I'm very big on my personal vision in life. So all that has to benefit, let's say benefit, like serve my life. And that's not like
yeah.
money only, that's like time.
Just lifestyle. Yeah,
Yeah.
that whole
So
lifestyle
exactly
aspect.
that. So I like to set the business up where they serve my life because sometimes I go hiking for a week
Yeah,
and turn my phone off. So I like to have fun with it.
I
Fun is
would
a
love to do that.
very key word in my life. If it's fun, I like to do it. And that doesn't mean every moment of my day is fun. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten to that level where I can outsource everything. That's not
I
fun.
think that'd be pretty boring, actually. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
so used
right?
to solving problems that, like, if things became easy and fun every day, I'd be like,
Well,
"This is reality."
like you just said, solving problems is actually fun. I
It
don't
is.
want to, I want to creatively solve it and then let someone else do the work for it. But I
Yeah,
actually enjoy solving problems.
yeah, it is. When you deal with it so much, it's like anything else, right? Your tolerance is built up. So what
Yeah.
was once a hard problem or hard issues or stress to deal with, it becomes your new baseline. And when those things pop up, the confidence of, like, I've done this before, I know what to
Yeah.
do, solve it this way, and it's skilling up. I get where you're coming from. So you're going to continue buying. You're doing that. You're building your business around that. Lifestyle REI is your education piece where you're helping people buy mobile homes, or
Yep.
just taking
Yeah.
them down,
I'm educating
understanding
about
how to
mobile homes.
acquire them.
My main focus is what I do, the home and land, but I have found I have a good amount of students that are mobile home park investors because there's some people out there teaching the mobile home park world only the business side of it, not the actual homes themselves.
Uh,
So they have no
Dude,
idea what homes are made out of. They don't know that
they
all homes
don't.
have particle board. Yeah,
I have
I
my
see you
own. Yeah,
shaking your head. You're like, it's great.
it
Apparently,
is
people are
because
teaching it that way.
I have a problem with it, and I know that's not what this podcast. I have, like, it's not what it's about, but it's because a lot of these people come from a non-real estate background, so they
Yes.
want to do mobile home parks as like a parking lot, which I get it, totally understand. But people like us who come from a very heavy construction, hands-on rehab, single family, dealing with the home in that aspect of it, the guts, you know what I mean? I call it field operators. Like, we're field operators. I call them
Yep.
like desk operators. So field operators, like, we thrive with that type of stuff because we've done it. And so, yeah, you're right. When people buy parks, they don't understand about the underpinnings. They don't understand the piping. And so they always complain. Finding vendors is so hard. Oh, you have to go to a mobile home supply store. You can't just go to Home Depot. And me and you are thinking, like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, dude, like, that's a given. And so they just, like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this. And so that's what's being taught, is they're like, just don't just rent the land. So I get where you're coming from, but I think mobile homes are a very lucrative type of rental, and I think it's a great ask, not just the park, but I'm saying, like, I know that's my niche, but like the home itself, I feel is a very good investment. I know people say that they are a depreciating asset. I get it. And in a sense, I understand they are, but I have personally fixed up 19, I think the oldest one was in 1973. And yes, it took work, but I gutted that thing, reframed it, and I still spent less than just doing a cosmetic rehab on the similar, maybe a little larger single family home, and I still profited very well on that. It can be done. and it's
Yeah.
brand new. By the time I was done, dude, it's like brand new cabinets, floors, subfloors, framing, wiring, everything.
And on the depreciating asset, air quotes again, that myth, all I can say is my net worth and balance sheet argues very different from that.
Barring like something, the chassis melting away somehow, or a tornado ripping this thing up into the sky, I mean, it could be rebuilt. Like it can be
Yeah.
rebuilt.
When that's what both of us are doing is we still own that dirt.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
let's say, yeah, the hurricane turns into a hurricane missile. Well, we still have the dirt to put a new one on. Maybe we're gonna, yeah, it's gonna adjust our numbers,
yeah,
but we can still make money with it. And
yeah,
when it's that older one, that's another reason I pay a little bit less on the older ones, or a good amount less, is because I do have that little higher risk on the hurricanes. So
yeah,
now I've got to make sure that I'm safe. Everyone's invested is safe, so that
yeah,
if it does, fly away, all right. Well, now we have the numbers already built to put another one on there.
yeah. And down in Florida, or even up in
And
Arkansas, there's tornadoes. Down here, we got hurricanes. So it's a very
and
possible thing.
the highest win rating one that I know about, you may know differently. They have them now, newer ones that can withstand 165-mile-per-hour
I know
wind.
that.
That
Yeah,
is a serious tornado, hurricane coming through. So they have newer ones rated for that. I don't own those,
I don't know
but
those either, but yeah.
it takes away that, that is so uncomfortable for you. All right, you have to look for the newer ones that can withstand a higher wind.
Yeah, I don't know how to lead into it, but I remember on our pre-show you had mentioned, when you were questioning mobile homes, somebody had
Oh,
told
yes.
you, what was it, in 1960s, and they told you like it was still stick. What would they say? It was still sticking
Yeah.
around or something?
He just like, well, 1960s, it's been through more hurricanes than you have. And I was like, yeah. So he's like, it's still there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, if he had a
It's
microphone, he
it's
could have just dropped it and walked away
it's
at the time.
survived 60 years of hurricanes. I live in a 1920s like frame house, and people say that to me all the time. Aren't you afraid of hurricanes? I'm like, this house is older than my grandma. And like the wood that this thing is made out of, it's like it's grown roots and into the ground. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's
You
the
don't
thing
have any
about Florida. Yeah.
termite. You don't have any
No.
worry about termites in that
Oh
house.
no. No, it's like old Dade City pine. If anyone knows what that is, it's hard wood. Um, no, this is interesting. I think it's phenomenal that not only, so it's like you're helping out two sets of people. You're offering investors a way to diversify and put money into mobile homes, but also I think it's a huge benefit to be teaching people about mobile homes themselves, because I think affordable housing in this economy more than ever, is something important. I'm a big fan of mobile homes and RVs as the next wave of affordable housing. And just because I think more and more people are looking at their lifestyle and saying, what I have is too much. I need to scale back. So I think it's great because investors can really profit off of this while everyone else is focusing on the C class, B class, A class homes and apartments and duplexes. We can stay in our area. I got one last question for you. If I'm an investor and I got money, how do I go? Where would you recommend me looking to find somebody that I could potentially, like an operator that I could potentially invest with? I mean, because the internet nowadays is crowded with your charlatans and people like. How do I know who I could trust? Like, so two things: where would I go, and what's something to look out for if somebody that I would say I could give money to this person?
I think that there's a lot of good operators out there, business. So if you're in person and you can go to an actual meeting, a real estate
Like
meeting,
a meetup?
yeah. So you could go there. I wouldn't like meet one person the first time and they done. I want to
You
see
go
like,
give them a check. Yeah.
yeah, who keeps coming back, and
Okay.
and
So
then
who keeps
ask
coming
around.
back? Yeah.
So yeah, so because there's a lot of people that go to one or two meetings and they never go again, especially the January, the new goal time. And
Yeah, I actually I did that myself once where I was like, I'm gonna do this all the time. And I went and then I had no time. I was the January guy.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't go to as many meetings as I used to because of the whole time thing too.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
so that's one way. Uh, Another way, which is you don't have to go in person, is just look at their social media. Now, I'm not private on there. Some people are, and so that you can't do this 100% because people that are pretty private just don't post everything on there.
Yeah.
But I found out through a friend that lent me money, he didn't ask anything about my business. And I was like, huh? Well, he's been watching my social media for years and years of the good, bad, and ugly, because I don't post just the perfect things. If someone says everything is perfect, don't trust them. Uh,
Okay.
they they've got something that they messed up somewhere. Like, I always want to hear, all right, how'd you fix it?
Yeah.
Because everyone can make money and pay all their bills when everything's going great. It's when things mess up, how do you handle that? It's similar to going and looking at a mobile home. My least favorite mobile home to look at is one that was freshly painted, because
Yeah.
it covered up everything that's wrong with it.
Everything that they've done. Yeah. I've.
So yeah, but the social media, talk, ask for references, and the probably the most important reference, ask the title companies. They know everything.
Uh,
I've told multiple sellers when, building rapport, well, you just want to call my title company? They're the third party. They can tell you. They can tell
what
you
kind of
if I don't
references?
close, if I close.
Yeah.
They know everything.
What kind of references would you say I should get as a private investor? Because what if you give me your best friend? Like, how am I gonna or your mom? Like, oh yeah, here's Susie, my mom. Call her. She thinks I'm the greatest boy ever.
Hey,
Who
how
do
about
I want? Go
if
ahead.
you already have private money lenders, so then ask for other private money lenders. Now, that's not always the scenario because you haven't done that business yet. I really like the title company. Again, that's for an experienced investor, because if they haven't done any deals yet, well, they don't. You could still talk to the title company, because the title company may say, yeah, they had 5 deals fall out. Well, now the question is why? Did they have their numbers wrong? Did someone else pull out? Like, it doesn't mean it's a no if they had that many deals wrong, because sometimes pulling out of a deal is the best thing we can do
Is a good
once we
thing.
find out more information. But I really like the title company, other people that they've done business with, lenders. If you go to those meetings, those real estate meetings, there, ask about the
Yeah.
person there.
Okay.
um a
What
banker,
is
if the person has
banker?
an
A
actual
lend
banker, I
like
know
a
that's
like
rare
a
today.
hard money or like a private banker? I get what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, those are different references. And honestly, I've never had anyone ask me for a reference, but people that have lent me money, I didn't meet them 3 days ago. I've known them for a long,
So would
long
you
time.
say flip
Is
it around and say somebody who's not too eager to get your money
Oh,
today?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you for bringing that one up, because I do a little bit of lending out of my IRA, and someone a few months ago reached out to me, and they texted me like 5 times a day, and I was like, I'm not even looking into this deal. Like, there is some urgency that they don't
That's
even
a
know
lot.
me. Like, we barely
Yeah.
met at a meeting, and
They're
there's
looking
some
at like a
urgency that
sales pitch.
scares
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, like that's like a very salesy. So not too eager. Check with references. If you have okay, so aside from
Well,
experience and all that, like what is something I should look for in an operator or somebody like obviously not everyone has 100 deals under their belt or
yeah,
20 years of experience is there saying and I say this not just as like you looking at yourself in the mirror but like you and I as operators we talk to so many of our fellow operators and sometimes we're like man like how's that guy still in business or man like wow why does he do it that like what would you say is a trait that somebody should look for in order to say that's somebody I would want to give my money to or that is not somebody I would want to give my money to? Like, what kind of traits would you say would be something to look at?
so for the people that have like a gut feel, not everyone like is in tune with that. I would say for those people especially, have multiple coffee, lunch, dinner sessions with them. Just sit down and talk. It doesn't have to be about the business. Just talk to them.
Yeah.
We hear that women have a better intuition. You have a spouse, bring
Yeah.
her. Actually, I have a friend. It's not a mobile home world; it's a business world. But they just got out of a deal. They're going to probably lose their earnest money on this business that they were going to buy, and a lot of it has to do with her gut.
Wise
And she's
man.
just like, I don't know what it is, but all of a sudden
Wise man.
something changed,
He
and we
dodged
all
something.
encouraged them. You're right. Lose that money.
I
She's
can't
probably
wait.
right.
Yeah, 5 years from now, he's gonna figure out what was
Yes.
wrong that he dodged, and he's gonna owe her huge because I guarantee she's 100% right. They have an
Yeah.
intuition that
And
we need to
that's
trust.
from a
Yeah.
mastermind group, and everyone said that. There was
Hmm.
no one that said, "Go ahead, still buy it."
Yeah.
Uh,
So
so, uh,
trust your gut. Go ahead.
so, uh, to answer your question, maybe I'm trying to think of a little bit better. so I'm more of a gut person, so this is hard. I want to talk to someone. When we talked, I was like, this is a good guy. He knows what he's talking about. Well, it didn't take me very long to figure that out.
Yeah.
And you're asking questions. You don't want to, if you're the lender person, you don't want to just meet them and lend it the money the next day. Just get to know them. If they've never done a deal, okay, well, show me some deals that you are looking to do. Show me, look, see the numbers. Are they even prepared? And then just start asking questions. There's a bunch of things that people can take from this hour plus conversation we've had and go back and ask those questions. Well, I
Yeah.
heard about this. Well, what do you do about a hurricane? Well,
Yeah.
what about insurance? And if they have no answer, well, I'd get a little weary. But if
And it
they
doesn't
already
matter
know,
what the answer is, it's do they have an
yes,
answer? There is no, as you said many times, where I asked you a question, you're like, well, it depends. It's the same thing. You say,
yeah,
how do you handle this or this? It's how long does it take them to respond?
yeah.
Like,
It,
can they?
and it there's to me, it's actually really powerful. I'm not really sure. Let me look into that and get back to you in a few days. That was hard for my ego for a little bit to do, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But that's a really powerful thing because
Yeah.
now they're admitting they're not really sure, and then they go and research it and bring it back to you.
Mhm.
That would be huge for me. Now, if that's every answer,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but if
That's
it, you get something here and there, and then a question I always love is, uh, what am I not asking you that you should know,
oh,
or I
that's
should know? What am I not? And for me, as the person, building the rapport for you to lend me money, I like to, answer whatever questions you have and like, you know what? You forgot to ask about
yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
That's good.
And for me, that is a big rapport builder because I didn't just say, you know what? He never asked about insurance. I'm not going to bring that up. Hey,
Hmm.
you forgot to ask about insurance, or you forgot to ask about, is this
Yeah.
secured with a mortgage? I like just to
Exactly.
tell it all.
Well, coming from the sales side of my life of buying houses and stuff, it's just your objection handling before that objection happens. Because what people don't realize is like when you're dealing with sellers on the phone, they won't ask you something. And if you don't cover it, you hang up thinking you're good. They think of it later. And that's the reason why
Yes.
they don't pick up because they're too embarrassed to say, I forgot to ask about this. And it's easier for them to not pick up your call when you could have, because your experience, you should have just said, hey, by the way, we didn't kind of go over XYZ before we get off the phone. I just wanted to go over XYZ. Just because they don't ask doesn't mean it's not going to be the reason why they don't pick up. And it's the same thing with investors. He may be like, oh, I forgot to ask him about like what the balloon is or how he insures it. And I don't want to seem stupid, so I'm just that's fine. I'll wait for the next one.
Yeah, that and the other, I have to actually say more dangerous thing is they didn't ask you about it, so they go and ask their neighbor or their cousin.
Oh, and they
And
get some
oh,
messed up
you should
info.
hear some of
Yeah.
the information I've heard. I had a seller that we were talking about maybe seller financing, and
Oh
the
yeah.
information that she's had of how it worked, I couldn't even made it up as a fairy tale. It was so weird,
Yeah.
and but someone told her that,
It's
and she
and then
believed
you're
it.
battling that now, and
Yes,
you sound yeah, and so yes, explaining that
yeah.
to people
So,
ahead
like
of
a
time.
mock-up deal, going back to like if you said you had $20,000, let's say we just had that conversation 3 weeks ago, and I got a deal that's $100,000. I might send it out to you and say, I know you didn't have this much money, but I want you to see what it looks like. And then let's jump on the phone and answer any questions so you can start understanding this a little bit better to
Mm.
show projected deals or deals from the past, or go pull up someone else's deal, run all the numbers, and say, look, this is what they did. We're going to look for something similar to this.
I like that. Like it's I had somebody I was on a call with a potential investor, and he had asked me, "Do I have this on a previous deal?" And I looked at him and I said, we were on a video call, and I said, I don't have that. But now that you're saying it, it is something that I should have. And I really appreciate you bringing that up. I said, here's what I can give you that I have. And I could send that to you. Like, I could send that to you tomorrow or the next day or whatever I said. But you bring up like valuable input. I'm going to need some time to go put that together because it's not
Yeah.
so easy. But yeah. And it's true. I was like, man, have that. And that's kind of the same thing, right? Like people are going to say, show me your past performance, show me this. And if you don't have it, you need to be able to either put it together or give them something, right? And it also has to correlate to your perceived level of experience too. It's like if you say you've done 100 deals and you've raised $10 million and you don't have a basic like bio or anything, and the guy's like, "Hey, send me your history or your like a summary of your portfolio." Like, I don't have that. And he's like, "Wait, you've raised $20 million or whatever, and you own all this. You don't have that." It's things won't match up. But if you're
Yeah.
new and you say, "Hey, I'm pretty new in this. I own a couple properties, and and you don't have that," they're gonna say, "Understandable." And you say, "I could get that to you in a day or two," and then you
Yeah.
actually do that. So again, there's no. We're circling back that there's no perfect answer. I think we kind of maybe ended at like it's a gut thing, right? Like, should we say that it's more about your gut and the total encompassing story?
And on that, if you're still a little stuck there, this is for both side parties. At some point, you just have to take action. I mean,
I
you
like
do it
that.
smaller dollars or better. I should
Smaller
say higher.
dollars. No, but you can invest a little less to test it out too, right?
Exactly. And I wouldn't necessarily say a higher return because for some people that actually means more risk. I've actually
Mhm.
had someone tell me, no, they're not giving me any money because I offered them a really high rate because I could afford it. And he said, no, that means risk to me. And I said, well, I'll drop it. And he was already tainted. So
Yeah,
that's why that rate, but
that's
also people get real aggressive with that and they're going after people that they can get ridiculous rates that have a super risky thing. If you're risk adverse, start with something super safe, get a small return, get your knowledge built up,
test it
your
out. Yeah.
confidence, and then start going bigger and bigger and bigger. And you'll start understanding more questions to ask. Like we talked here, we're consistently getting more questions to ask or more information to give. That journey's never over.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that. I think that's good. I think that's some good information for some passive investors. I'm going to use a page out of your playbook. What is it that I have not asked you that I should have asked you? What did I miss on
Oh,
this
great
about
flipping
passive
that around me.
investing?
Great flipping that around on me. I don't know the answer.
I didn't mean to catch you off guard, man. I was just
Because
like, oh,
you've
well,
asked such
yeah,
great questions, and it was such
that's
a
okay. Yeah.
fun, and I do a lot of these, but you asked questions from a different angle. Um, what have you not asked me? I don't know, for whatever reason that just goes to a wild place of AI and technology. Um, I am not going to be that old man like, oh, I wish I should have figured that out. So I'm playing with it. We're using it. I'm actually right now the biggest thing I use it for is to edit my articles. I write a blog article every week, and I have trained it. So I've learned how to train it now that it edits it and doesn't completely change the language. It doesn't put regard in there, and it sounds like it's a overseas spammer. And so, how are we using that? We haven't figured out how to use it on a day to day basis, but we're playing with it so that we don't get skipped over in technology. Personally, I think AI is the internet of the late 90s. The people that say I'm too busy to learn it
Yeah.
are really going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And I know we'll end up making our business more efficient. I'm actually even paying my VA to learn how to use it. And it's not to replace her, it's to help her work more efficient. And it can do stuff that she doesn't even like to do. But we're playing with that, and that goes on like maybe how do you vet someone? Like, are they staying on top of different trends and laws and things going on? So that's I guess the little thing on AI.
I like that.
And the
I
reason I
like
think
that.
it went back to that is that's one of the key questions I was told to ask AI because AI is built to assume everything because it doesn't think humans want tons of questions back. So as you feed it all the stuff, then you are supposed to say before you say, "Give me the answer." What did I not ask you for you to complete this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then answer those, and that has been game changer for how
I,
I interact with AI.
I have found that to be true. I did not know that. And then when I started asking, instead of telling it, I started asking, what would you do? What would you say? What did I miss? And then I would get totally different responses. So that is a little tweak. I think that was a good response. That is something I did not ask you. AI I don't want to go down. We're already well over the
Yeah.
time you promised me, but we might have to have a separate talk, because AI for real estate, I think, is a huge part of our future. How, when, expenses, all that stuff is yet to be determined on how it makes sense and fits in. But I think that was a very good response, man.
I'll throw one other thing on there where
Yeah,
AI. Well, I haven't questioned it, and when I say AI, I'm mainly talking about ChatGPT, but I haven't really
yeah, me
questioned
too.
it since the newest update. But it actually did not understand mobile homes real well, so that's
Oh
why you
yeah,
still need actual education in humans because it wasn't
gotta
there.
you got to train it.
Yeah.
Train that AI bot. No, that's good. A lot of people don't, not even AI, which is why we have this free ebook QR code up there. You guys can scan it and download that. You can also follow Adrian at these below socials down here, lifestyle underscore REI or at lifestyle REI. Give him a follow, go check him out. Potentially invest with him or join his education, learn more about mobile homes. Again, 22 years of experience. I know guys who are selling courses with not even a tenth of that experience. So that has value. Thank you very much for coming on the show today and giving us some of your time, because I know time is very valuable to you in your lifestyle. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. I appreciate you having you. I'm going to put one more little plug on that
Yeah,
myths. If you are thinking about investing in someone with mobile homes, you need it to upgrade the mindset. If you're thinking about just going and doing this yourself, you kind of need it there. And then if you're like, I don't know how I stumbled into this mobile home conversation, but they're not really for me anymore. You should, if you're an investor, you should still upgrade your mindset with it because then you can understand mobile homes enough to then pass the mobile home park lead to you, pass the single unit to me. Like, help the seller and make a little money. Because I used to leave money on the table before I understood them.
solutions.
When I would get that lead, I'm like, nothing there. And I see investors do that all the time. So you need to get the mindset upgraded. And this is really with every conversation of every asset class. So I know a little bit about lots of asset classes. I focus on mine that works really well. So,
Yeah.
yep, it's there, lifestyle-rei.com/LTPI and the QR code. And if I can help out, like you said, I'm here to help.
No. Thank you very much, and good luck on the mobile home journey. I hope a lot join you. All right, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on our socials. Appreciate you, and see you on the next one.